Morning, or evening or afternoon, wherever you are. Hope you're all well. I'm sorry I've been away from this for so long. Just been a bit of a eventful few weeks for me, so I'll try and get back on the live stream a bit more regularly now. Basically, I had to wait for my phone to come back as well, so I film a lot with the phone, and it got smashed in the car accident I had, so that's one excuse among many others I've got. So sorry. But yeah, I'm a lot better now and feeling a bit more normal, which is good, I guess. Oh no, Jungi's watching. No, that's a bit of pressure I didn't need. As some of you know, I got hit by a car on my bike about 10 weeks ago now, so I've had to have some time off recuperating and doing a lot of physio and things like that, but I've had to have some operations and various procedures, so it's took me a while to get back up and running, but I'm feeling a lot better now, and I've had loads of messages asking me how I'm doing, and really nice to get so much support from people. So if you're one of the people who sent those lovely messages, thank you, because it did mean a lot at the time, especially when I was in hospital. It was quite heartwarming to get so many nice messages, so thank you everyone who sent a message. So I'm trying to, at the moment, get my Sketchbook volume 6 together, which is a little late, again, for obvious reasons. Normally I'd have launched it around the time of Luca Comics, which is kind of end of October, early November, but with that being cancelled due to COVID and everything else going on, I'm a little behind on that, so I'm still hoping to get the new sketchbook out before Christmas, probably in the next couple of weeks. And I'm playing with ideas for the front cover, so this potentially could make the front cover. If it goes well. Someone's mentioned Tommaso about the first and second sketchbooks. Unfortunately, they're out of print now. But what I did do is there's a book called The Big Kapinski, which I has a whole section which is basically volume 1 and 2 of my published sketchbooks together. So pretty much everything that was in volume 1 and 2 is in the big Kapinski, and then there's also some more sketches which weren't published anywhere else, and quite a large, well, I think something like 60-page colour section as well. So if you were looking for those, Tommaso, then that's probably the only place you can get them now. And hopefully I've just put them in stock and they sold out in 24 hours, the big Kapinski. So I'm hoping to have more stock in the next week. So now I'll put that on my Instagram as well. Hi, Aaron. Thank you for your well wishes. So I'm using these really beautiful sumi brushes, which my really beautiful friend Hyunjin gave me as a gift. And they're just sort of with this Chinese ink, I think it's Chinese, they're just kind of next level when it comes to do that brushwork. The Pentel pen's great, and really portable and sort of super easy to use and convenient. But when you try these sumi brushes, it's kind of they're kind of really seem to help me feel more fluid and free, and also a bit closer to watercolor. So you do tend to approach your ink drawing slightly differently as well. And you can just see what I've done is just to take some of the ink and water it down just with water to make the grey tone. Hi, Georgie. Thank you for the message. And Tommaso, don't worry, your English is great. Molto bene. Yes, Jungi's a monster, isn't he? I know. It's always for me, whenever I see him drawing, I've been lucky enough to do a lot of events with him, and whenever we do events together, one of the things I really look forward to is just to be able to sit and watch him draw. I find it really, I'm sure you're all the same, you really benefit from watching those kind of super high level artists work. And for me, I always come away from the events feeling sort of quite, I suppose, they're energized and, full of enthusiasm and inspiration, really. So, yeah, I agree totally with anyone who seeks out that opportunity to watch those guys draw. Why did I decide to paint instead of sketch? Well, it's kind of a sketch, really, with ink. It's not a painting, it's not a drawing, it's somewhere in between. Oh, good luck with your spinal surgery. I hope it's all okay. I will try to do this more often, I promise. Maybe twice a week. I'll do maybe a Monday and a Friday or something like that. How to avoid getting into a rut, Connor. Well, firstly, you have to accept that it's going to happen. And everybody, even the people you really admire or are really inspired by, they all have that same feelings of frustration and lack of inspiration or struggling with technical level or projects or whatever they happen to be working on. But I think the thing is to you've got to understand that you have to hit a rut, really, because you can't be permanently improving on an upward trajectory, really. It's not realistic to think you can do that. A constant sort of upward trajectory is not realistic goal. So what you've got to do is look for ways to energize yourself and inspire yourself. So whether that's, for me, I often will switch medium or try something quite different or new that maybe I've seen another artist use, or something that I've used in the past and not tried for a while. So whether it's switching between oil paint or watercolor, or even switching pens, pencils, there's so many different materials and techniques out there that sometimes it's a good way to push yourself out of that feeling is to try something new, because that's the upward trajectory, is when you're learning new stuff and improving. It's when you feel like you stop learning that you're not in that trajectory, if you know what I mean. So by switching around and trying different techniques, or trying to tackle a different subject matter, or working on some areas that you're weak on, first will be frustrating, obviously, because they're an area that you're not so good on. But if you can improve on them, then you start to feel better about what you do, and then I think that helps to get you out of that rut and start to move you back onto a more of an upwards trajectory, maybe. I think, not really sure. Learning perspective, I think you can learn it really in a strict sort of very almost academic way, but also you've got to be able to reach a point where you're maybe not even so aware of it, you're just doing it without sort of overthinking it. So sometimes you can try to learn it so academically and from a technical perspective it's great, but if you can draw something that feels right from a perspective point of view, then that's really what you want to be aiming for. So maybe learn the technical side of it a little, but also look for the right feeling in your drawing, because that might not be technically perfect, but as long as it feels right and gets the message across to the viewer, then that's end game really. Otherwise you're moving into the realms of like doing a technical drawing, and you know, it's almost like they have CAD design for that stuff now. So you want to learn enough to be able to incorporate it into what you do, but not, it's a bit like everything. You can learn anatomy, but you know, I'm not drawing each muscle out before I start to ink it. I just want it, I have an understanding of where they are and I want it to feel right. I know that if it was broken down, I still make mistakes, and that there's still things that I do that aren't anatomically perfect, but they're enough to get the message across, if you know what I mean. One of the reasons I really like these brushes as well is because, like for me with the Pentel, like these kind of pens, they're great. One of my favorite points of using them is when they start to run out of ink a little. So with those, you squeeze them and the ink comes down into this barrel, and you know, you get more ink that way. But when you start to run out, it gets this lovely sort of slightly dry brush effect. And obviously with the sumi, you can control that a lot more. You just rub a bit of the ink off, and then you can, you know, control that. So that's another aspect of that I like using these. Another reason I like using these. Have I ever drawn something in a cautious way from Johan? I am quite cautious, especially when I'm learning new stuff. But then I think everyone is. That's just the nature of it. You know, until you're really comfortable, it's you know, you almost can't help yourself being a little tentative and wary with the lines that you put down and the marks you make. So I think it's just practice and, you know, understanding those basic principles of perspective and anatomy and things like that can help you sort of get around that feeling of being sort of a little bit nervous and scared of making a mistake. But it is, like I say as well, if you can welcome a bit of that attitude of, well, that's enough to get the idea across, then that can be really beneficial, especially in kind of loosening up and being able to do something that's maybe a bit more free and, you know, kind of energetic when it comes to your paintings. Flying Dutchman from Sponge. Maybe I'll do the Flying Dutchman from SpongeBob. We'll see. Everyone loves the Monkey King, don't they, Joseph? If you have questions for Hyunjin, then the thing is to go on their Super Annie channel, which they're doing a lot of amazing stuff on there. Jungi's drawing almost, well, it seems to be every day, the comic that he's working on with, I think it's with JD Morvan. And he's posting that live and doing some lessons on there, and it's a really cool channel if you're looking for sort of inspiration, and it's just a lot of fun, I think, as well. They look like they're having so much fun. Ahmed, how many hours do I draw a day? Well, it varies. I have had to slow down over the past couple of weeks a bit, but if I can, I'll draw. If I have the time, I'll draw like 10 hours a day, maybe, sometimes 12, sometimes a bit more. And obviously it's a balance of work and then my own projects, and so it can vary in that sense, that sometimes there's other projects on the go that I need to make a big push for to get finished. So I mean, if I could, I'd draw all the time, but I've got, you know, a young family, and I'm aware that I need to stay fit and healthy, so I try to exercise a bit with my bike every day, which backfired, obviously. What did you do before Games Workshop and dropped out of Arts College? Not much, really. It was a bit of a, maybe what you'd call a bit of a dark period for me, where I didn't really do much, I didn't achieve much, and I was sort of a bit of a lost soul for a while. So yeah, I didn't do much, wasted time. I'm in front of a window. I just had, just a few months ago, had my studio sort of extended, so I have quite a good dedicated space now. So I have a lovely view of trees just outside my window, which you can probably see just at the top here. Zachary is asking if I'd start a course to teach in course. My problem really is that I'm still at a point where I'm kind of trying to do this stuff myself, and in doing teaching courses and things like that are more about getting other people involved. I just don't have the time or skill set to put something together. Probably the best resource for that kind of thing is if you look at Kazone Arts, which is Kazone, and they work with a lot of the guys from Super Annie and obviously Jungi as well, and they have some teaching courses on there which you can subscribe to, and I think there's a fee involved, but there is a couple of videos of mine on there. Again, the guys who produce that are based in Los Angeles, so the plan was this year to get out there and record some more content in between doing, you know, one of the events like San Diego Comic Con or something like that. But as you're all aware, COVID has put a halt to that. So unfortunately, that's not happened this year. But hopefully, we'll get something going in the next months once this is cleared up. Whole global crazy situation. Sorry, I've gone a bit quiet, just trying to get this face in. Quite like doing the faces, so I want to try and do it with as few brush strokes as I possibly can. And then, which is one of the few areas I seem to be able to do that with. Then the rest of the image I usually mess up and do too many lines, so a bit frustrating really. I think my strong point is faces. Everything else I'm trying to catch up with really, and getting a little frustrated with a lot of the time. Yeah, right. Going into an autopilot mode is not good, and everybody does it, and it's kind of unavoidable. I think the key is to try to, well, do it as little as possible. When we say go in an autopilot mode, that's like kind of, you know, you're drawing without really, or painting without really thinking about what you're doing. So you want to avoid it, but also I think it can be quite a good thing sometimes, you know, to just switch off and actually enjoy the process a little and not be sort of super, you know, stressed out about getting it perfect, because, you know, you've got to enjoy drawing, painting as well. This really is key, because otherwise it's hard to improve if you're doing something that's just stressful all the time. You've got to bear in mind that this is something you know, want to do, and is actually an enjoyable process, rather than just I can't get it right, kind of, you know, getting angry and stressed out. It's not good. It's not conducive to learning. What is my most precious habit you had to get as good as you are, to be able to draw without any reference? I don't know if there's one particular habit. Maybe it's about a mental attitude towards stuff, or maybe it's you know, always looking for sort of inspiration, and being able to look at, or trying to look at things in greater depth, so that you can understand them. As I've said on these streams a few times, you know, for me, one of the things that I notice with somebody like Jungi is he has an understanding of like the functionality, the way things work and operate as a almost like as a machine. You know, the anatomy of human anatomy is just a machine. So he has an understanding of that machine, from the skeleton down to the musculature, and then applies that with you know, perspective and all the other things that he does so well. So I think one of the best habits you can maybe get into is try and look, understand how things work and not just how they look or how you think. That's one of the worst habits, is to autopilot mode and draw an eye how you think an eye looks, or a leg how you think a leg looks. You need to be able to understand it, understand what the muscles are doing under there, how they work to pull and push and move the the object. And that's really important. Goes for faces and right through from faces to whether it's a human face or horses, or even drawing cars and things like that. If you can understand a little, just enough to get the message across to the viewer, then you can be better at drawing without reference. But I think also you have to understand this, you have to draw with reference first to learn that. So you can't just pull that out of thin air. There's got to be a period where you're learning it, so you are working from some kind of reference at that point, whether it's graphic or real life, or however you choose to do that. There's some things that are more conducive than others to being able to do it from life or photographs. I think it's also important to, write down to small elements like the hilt of this sword here. You can take every opportunity to add a little bit perspective. So I could have done that hilt very flat like that, and it would have looked fine. Probably nobody would have noticed, but just to tilt it a little and be able to see the top of the hilt, it just all adds to idea of basically you're always trying to trick the viewer into believing that these 2D marks that you're making with pretty basic instruments are 3D real objects. So by just, as someone said earlier, not being on autopilot, but just thinking about areas like that you can add another level kind of thought process into it that just helps to convince your viewers or whoever it is who's looking that this thing is believable. I'm not talking about making them think it's real, but you're making them believe it's, or making it feel believable possibly. So here, like, I could do the belt just following round like that, but I can also take the opportunity to maybe put like a strap there and then have it kind of flopping little like that. And it's just, little things like that you learn over the years as make it, just a more interesting image for me. kind of curving round the hilt of his cutlass or whatever it is he's got as a weapon. So I've got to decide, you see, whether this guy makes it onto the cover of volume 6, or I posted a Monkey King that I drew, sketched and did a time lapse of just the other day on my Instagram. He's potentially a cover option as well. Here, look, take that chance to sort of maybe bunch up some of the cloth, and then you can pull the, I've got the idea that he's got some kind of sash round and then the belt, so, and then you can just fill that belt in. I really like this thing as well. I learned a lot of it again from watching people like Jungie and Claire Wendlin and these people who, to me, seem to have a really masterful line, you know, is to look for the contour lines, so the areas where, you know, one line overlaps another, and it's just enough for you to read it as, you know, a 3D aspect almost. So by just overlapping a few lines, you can make something look more 3D. But I'm not as good as those guys at doing it. Also, like putting these kind of bracelets and things like that, it's really useful as another aspect that you can reinforce the angle of that forearm, you know. So by putting that bracelet just at that angle, it helps to show that the arm's kind of pointing backwards a little. And then when that's dried, I'll probably put some tattoos or something on the arm to make it another area of sort of level of detail. And just going to adjust this camera slightly with the charge. So here on this leg, you can use those, as I said, those contour lines. So, and also there's a great videos that guy I met and did some work with called Stan Prokopenko, and I'm sure you all know his it's superb resource, and he talks at length about this kind of stuff that you know, I think it's in one of the interviews he does with Jungi on an analysis of his technique, and he talks about these contour lines where you just overlap enough to give it a 3D aspect, and by doing that you can really work almost solely with line. You don't need to do much more than that to make it read to the viewer as a you know, 3D object. I'm not so good at it though. Hey Carl, can you draw a character with Filipino ethnicity? Yeah, maybe I can do that next time, do something like that. Try to look at how to tackle different ethnicity in your face drawings. I think it's quite interesting as well, because when you look at that sort of aspect of portraiture, there's some fundamentals that are quite interesting to learn about bone structure and you know, facial shapes and types that are, without being generic, they sort of definitely differ in racial types, you know. So it's quite, for me, quite an interesting thing to learn those sort of structural differences in maybe only small, but in how the skull is and the width of the cheekbones and things like that can be really interesting to learn about if you're like super nerdy like me. And with this one, probably when it's dry, I'll go back in with just a little bit of like white gouache or something like that, just to, there's a few areas where I've maybe done too much grey or lost a bit of the highlights that I'd want, so I might go back in afterwards and tidy it up just a little bit. Probably won't have time to do that on this live stream, so I've got a few other projects I've got to move on to this morning. How is my hip? Thanks for asking, Dan. It's okay, not quite as good as it was before the accident, but you know, I can walk on it, which is good, and I'm riding my static bike a little as part of the physio. little painful still at night, so I'm not sleeping too well. Try not to drink too much whiskey at the weekends. Now I've got an excuse to drink on medical grounds. But no, it's getting there. Thanks for asking, Dan. Don't do FTP intervals and start saying, okay, I know I'm terrible. I'm probably, somebody just mentioned, I didn't catch the name, sorry, but on my training, at the start of my sort of recovery from the accident, I was probably going a little bit too, too much too early. So I'm now switched to doing a lot more strength work with physiotherapist and building that up before I get back on my bike. And I'm still pretty scared about the prospect of going on the road. It's going to take me a while mentally to get my head around that, I think. But I'm lucky because, I did have an injury to the finger. I don't know if you can see that. That's on my right hand. That was nearly completely detached. So I got off lightly, and luckily I'm mostly left-handed. I do use the right hand for drawing a little bit, but mostly I'm left-handed. So that was quite fortunate, really. Yes, Chris, I'm hoping to get volume 6 out in the next kind of 2 to 3 weeks. The plan is to try and get it out before Christmas. It's been pushed back because of my accident, but we're hoping that we can still make something before Christmas. So I've got enough material for it. I'm just in the process of putting everything together, and then, as I said earlier, potentially use the Monkey King drawing that I did the other day on Instagram, or even this guy for the cover. So that's really the only work that I need to do is for the cover now. And choose a colour for the cover, which my wife's very good at. So we're looking at maybe doing a green cover this time. Yeah, I wish I was Norman Rockwell. Thank you. I'm nowhere near that guy's level. He was just a monster, incredible artist. If any of you don't know Norman Rockwell's work, then you definitely need to search it out. He was one of the preeminent artists of his time in America, working sort of in what I suppose you'd call the golden age of illustration, and just incredible work. Really, really huge influence on me in my early well, still a huge influence on me every day, I'd say. Another person who's a huge influence on me, I was lucky enough to get his book, is Phil Hale. So he's got a book out called Use Music to Kill, and it's just phenomenal. And he was kind enough to send me an edition of it with a little drawing in the front there. I don't know if you can see that. And he's just a monster artist. I absolutely love his work. Really, really phenomenal oil painter, and so skillful, and you know, it's applicable to so many other sort of disciplines as well. You know, he's a figurative painter who's carved his own path out, and I just love his work. So if you don't know Phil Hale's work, then you should do, and definitely look for that book. And that's not a paid promotion, don't worry. That's me being super nerdy fanboy. I actually met him at an event called Trojan Horse was a Unicorn, which is another phenomenal event for any aspiring artist or visual artist. So many great and inspiring people there. And I got to sit next to him on a bus trip somewhere we were going, and told him I was a huge fan, and just geeked out about it for the whole rest of the trip, really. And he's such a lovely guy, real genuine, sweet person with just a great attitude towards his art and life, and humble, and everything that you hope and aspire to be as an artist, I think. So can't say enough good words about Phil Hale. Do I have imposter syndrome? Yes, I battle with imposter syndrome every day. I wake up and just think, oh God, what? There's so many people better than me. What's the point? Why can't I draw like the people I admire, and why can't I paint like the people I admire? But I sort of welcome it a bit as well, because I know that it's really good for me to feel like that, although it's quite negative and it can be quite negative. It's important to recognize that you're not the greatest artist that's ever lived, and you never will be. You know, I'm pretty good, but there's so many people better than me, and so many people who I aspire to be able to paint like and draw like, and that's good, because one, it means I'm still trying to learn and push forwards and do something out of my comfort zone, or improve my skill set. That's really important. And two, I've never met a good artist who says they're a great artist. All the good artists say, yeah, I'm okay, but you know, I could be better and I could improve this. They're the people who, you know they're so good because they're working so hard at improving. And that's really important to, be comfortable with where you're at, but also understand you could be a lot better than you are. And that's the goal, is to keep moving forward and improving. I think as an artist, as I've said before on this live stream and many other places, it's one of the best things about this discipline is that you hope that you can keep improving through your life. It's not like being an athlete or an actor, or I don't know, you're not, there's no time constraint or age restraint on this. You just hope that you can. An actor's not a good comparison, actually. That's nonsense. But the idea is that you can keep moving forwards and improving, and the more experience you get, the older you get, the more your art develops along with you, with your life experiences and skill level. So it's a great thing, that. And imposter syndrome for me is just part of that idea of improving, or trying to improve daily or weekly or monthly, however it manifests itself. It's, as long as I feel like I'm improving, then that's the main goal for me. It's not about beating someone or being better than someone, because it just doesn't work like that. It's not the game. It's about improving yourself and improving your skills and attitude towards stuff as well. That's what I think anyway. I might be a load of nonsense, but Guillaume, any tips on studying anatomy? I did do a lot of life drawings when I was younger, a lot of sort of studies of friends and family, and going to life classes and drawing from the TV and photographic reference, things like that. So that's very useful. And also I spent a lot of time learning, sort of, not medically, but learning a little bit more in depth about the human body and the way it works as I said earlier, as a sort of a machine, really. So that's quite useful. And then when you can do that, when you can take that idea and apply it, you try to understand the machine that is the body by studying the anatomy, and then you can apply it by going to life classes or drawing. Even a lot of people are doing Zoom life classes at the moment, but or working from these photo resources of reference poses. rather than just blindly copying that, if you can understand what's going on underneath from a skeletal and a muscular point of view, that's a really good level to sort of aim for, because you can then hopefully, after doing that repeatedly, start to apply it to you know, drawing without reference, hopefully. Jessan, you didn't miss the sketching part. It was already done. It was just literally as rough as that to begin with. So you didn't miss much. It was not interesting, really. So I'm probably going to leave him here. Blank editions, yeah, they are still available of the big Kapinski. I think you have to order them through Correct Editions, and then they send me the order, and I then draw or paint on the front of it. But basically, what I do usually is an ink wash drawing, a bit like this, and then add some watercolor color. So they take quite a while, but they seems like, you know, people are paying a lot of money for them. So I can't, you know, I need to put some effort into it. So I'm going to leave that guy there, and I'll probably finish barrel and foot later today and post it on Instagram later, and then I'll upload this to my YouTube. So if you could like and share and do all those things, that would be great. You don't have to if you don't want to, but every little helps, and you know, it'll motivate me to do another live stream this week, hopefully, and we can something interesting, hopefully, and chat a bit more on there about any questions you've got or ideas you want to talk through. Shoe looks like a physique. Yeah, it does a bit, doesn't it? Maybe the new one with the special wrap. That's Cycling Nerd Talk, sorry. And thanks, Super Annie. If you're still watching, hi Hyunjin. I'll be switching over to check if you've finished on YouTube yet. So everybody, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you maybe Thursday or Friday this week. Okay. Where do you buy the book? It said out of stock. Big Kapinski, I hope to have back in stock in a week or so. I sold all the copies very quickly, so I've got some more coming in. And then hopefully I'll have the Sketchbook Volume 6 in the next 2 to 3 weeks on my website. And also I've got some very limited edition prints that I've been putting on there as well. So I'll keep promoting that, but I don't want to kind of shove it down people's throats too much. Just, you know, you don't have to buy this stuff, but obviously it all helps. So thanks for everyone's support. Okay, take care, guys.